Let me read to you a passage from the 7th chapter of St. Matthew's Gospel, verses 21 and then 24 to 27. It's the Gospel for Thursday of the first week of Advent. St. Matthew writes, Jesus said to his disciples, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father in heaven. Everyone who listens to these words of mine and acts on them will be like a wise man who built his house on rock. The rain fell, the floods came, and the winds blew and buffeted the house. But it did not collapse. It had been set solidly on rock. And everyone who listens to these words of mine but does not act on them will be like a fool who built his house on sand. The rain fell, the floods came, and the winds blew and buffeted the house, and it collapsed and was completely ruined." That's from Matthew chapter 7, verses 21 and then 24 to 27. And what does it suggest to us? Well, one of the greatest joys in life comes with marriage. A young man or woman naturally looks forward to finding a spouse, marrying and having a family. A young couple meet, come to know one another, and make the decision to marry. The wedding day is a day of joy to them and to their families. They naturally consider how to build a secure, good and happy life. They plan future employment, they plan to have their children, and they consider many other aspects of their life together. The question for them is how to live, how to build on rock, as it were, so that if difficulties come, their house will stand. And so it is across the board. Life is uncertain and transient, and so much can cut across our plans and hopes and bring disruption and sorrow. This applies not only to the life of individuals, but of course to the life of whole societies. How will the house stand? What foundations must we lay to ensure the future? This is the very question our Lord answers in today's Gospel passage. He speaks of the wise and prudent man who, foreseeing the wind and the rain and the floods, chooses to build his house not on sand but on rock. The house remains secure when the elements beat against it. Now, what is it to build our house on rock? It is to listen to the words of our Lord and to put them into practice, to act on them. That is the message of today's Gospel. Every parent who aspires to give his or her child a true start in life, every couple that intends to build a good marriage, must take to heart this teaching of our Lord, a simple teaching so easy to comprehend and so demanding to implement. They must hear the word of Christ and put it into practice. So then, if we wish to build our life and the life of those who depend on us on a truly secure foundation, we must look to the words and the teaching of our Lord and be truly committed to putting that teaching into practice. Let us interrogate ourselves. To what extent are we giving heartfelt consideration to the words and the teaching of our Lord? Are our children learning this point at all? It is the most important point of all to be learnt in the ongoing education of life. The time will inevitably come when all else will fail, especially at the point of death. I once knew a person very closely whose whole life was lived with little thought for God. Well on in life, he suffered a stroke, and his last days were a continual and helpless protest against his situation. But nothing and no one could help him. There was nothing he could lean on, nothing to support him. All that remained was God, on whom he continually depended, but he had never learnt that God alone was his rock and his stay. His life ended tragically and angrily. By contrast, consider the person whose life is lived in a constantly growing desire to depend on God and on his holy will. The time for the end finally comes, and he entrusts himself into the keeping of the one who has been his support and constant foundation. The rain, the wind, and the floods arrive in his sickness and in the final tribulation of his last moments, but he is happy because the house stands. It is founded on rock, and that rock is God, and the determination to know the will of God and to put it into practice. That is the rock of his house. Let us learn the lesson of our Lord's words of today in today's passage while we have time on our hands, while we have the time. Life is short. Eternity is long. Life is fragile and transient, and the wind, the rain, and the floods will surely come. Let us build our house on rock and not on sand. That rock is Christ and his teaching and obedience to it.